Good morning. We're winding up here. We're coming down to the conclusion of the Sermon on the Mount. These are really Jesus wrapping up his words in this final section of verses 24 through 27. If you've been involved with or have been watching these thoughts for the days, or if you attend our ministry at Lifeline community, then you know I'm very passionate about discipleship. This entire focus of the Sermon on the Mount is all about discipleship. It is the kingdom kind of life, sort of served up on a platter and explained in a variety of ways that gets to the heart and the details of life. And as we enter into this conclusion, we need to be thinking about that. We need to be thinking about discipleship. So I'll read to you verse 24, but the next couple days we'll probably spend a little time thinking about verse 24. But verse 24 says, "Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock." To build your house on the rock is a way of saying being a disciple. And I thought that I would give you two statements from Dallas Willard this morning that give, I think, a good picture of what a disciple actually is. And I think both of these are really helpful. Willard writes, and this is from his book, The Divine Conspiracy, which I would strongly recommend for you to pick up and read. It's not a light read, but it's a very good read and a thorough read. It's a spiritual theology that does focus a lot on the Sermon on the Mount, primarily. But Willard says the following: "A disciple or apprentice is simply someone who has decided to be with another person under appropriate conditions in order to become capable of doing what that person does or to become what that person is." So let's just think about that for a second. Who has decided to be with another person? In this case, has decided to be with Jesus. Under appropriate conditions. Well, the conditions are life in the context of his community, the church, under the authority of his word by the direction of his spirit. We have the resources of church, word, and spirit. In order to become capable of doing what that person does or to become what that person is, to be the kind of person that could be like Jesus here and now. And it's to that end that Willard says the following that I think is a second quote that's deeply important. "Another important way of putting this," Willard writes, "is to say that I am learning from Jesus to live my life as he would live my life if he were I. I'm not necessarily learning to do everything he did, but I am learning how to do everything I do in the manner that he did all that he did." So in other words, I'm looking to see how is it that Jesus lived his life, and I'm seeking to live my life in that same kind of ethos and pathos, that same kind of ethic and passion, and I want to execute my life that way. In that way, I want to build my house on the rock. And we'll talk more about building your house on the rock tomorrow, but I want to just cement that in your mind for now as we begin to think in this conclusion of the Sermon on the Mount. Be a disciple and think, how would Jesus live his life if he were you, in your life, with all that it means to have your life? Take care.